And for those online, my mic check, you guys can hear me okay? Give me a thumbs up.
Yes, yes, you're
And perfect, even better. I love that. Voices, they're better than thumbs up. Thumbs up are cool, but voices are better. All right, great. Well, I am super excited to be able to be here, be able to chat with you guys today. I know that what I have, at least something will resonate with you in a way that you'll be able to take it away and use it. We Speak Color Inc. Up here. We have a workforce development nonprofit, and so I'm kind of really here as Jessie, but also representing that because we like to really be able to support people in their career paths. So a little bit about me. I lead teams of business analysts with a large hospital organization here in Nashville. Started the nonprofit because I really had this desire to pour out to others. And then been on the IT side of things for a long time, but also a walk of other, I will say, not quite careers, but jobs prior to that. In a very large range of areas. And so started in international logistics and then NASA aerospace and then healthcare. And so it really stretched the whole gamut. I also am really passionate about sharing what I learn with others. So I've written a couple books. You can see two of them here. We actually have the Color by Design book in 3 languages now, so Urdu as well. And I've released a book called The Ways of a Business Analyst, if anybody happens to want to be a business analyst as their next career choice. I have 2 more books coming this year on different topics, one including overcoming narcissism, and another one that's actually a Bible study based on the colors. So I kind of can't seem to keep myself in a single lane, and that's okay, and I'm okay with that too. So as we go through, if you are interested in checking out the book, there'll be a QR link at the end. No need to worry about it now. So I want to talk to you about what I'm going to talk to you about, because that's a great place to start. You know, I had this boss one time. He said, Jess, you need to tell people what you're going to tell them, and then you need to tell them, and then you need to tell them what you told them. And I'll tell you, that was fantastic advice. I have taken that through and really used that in a lot of different ways, whether it's meetings or just trying to communicate with that. Tell them what you told them, tell them, and then tell them, tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. It really works. So I want you to kind of follow this as a clock with me, okay? So when you're thinking about career change, we're going to start at the top. You really want to focus first on who you are. This is your life. This is your career. So you need to know who you are to make sure you're going to make the right choices, right? Then you want to focus on, well, what do you want? You could have another career, but if you have another career you don't like, didn't really put you in a better position than you were before, right? So you want to really kind of drive into, what am I after? And that sometimes can take a wide variety of things. We're going to look at those kinds of things, okay? You want to look at what you've done. What have you done before? What kinds of activities have you done? And that's going to tie into what skills you have. Just because you've done an activity doesn't mean that's only the skills you've got during that activity, right? And a lot of times when you read a resume, you see this activity, this activity, this activity. And I really encourage people to draw the skills out, because sometimes a hiring manager can't tell what skills you have based on the activity because they're not familiar with the activity. Or maybe you did other things outside of that, right? So we're going to talk about skills. I also want you to consider feedback. Have you gotten feedback from people in the past? You probably have, whether it was solicited or unsolicited. And was it positive feedback? Was it constructive feedback? I want you to try to draw all those memories of feedback you've gotten, because it's going to be really important to helping you to go to the next step. And then we want to take action, because all this stuff is great, but if we don't do anything with it, it doesn't really help, right? And so that's what we're going to be walking through in this session, okay? All right, so let's talk about who you are. And every single one of you is a little different, right? But you'll have certain things in common here or there or the other, and we start with, we're all human, right? We all have a life to live and responsibilities in our basket, right? But we also have desires, and we have things that drive us, and we have certain things we value, and we have strengths, and we have weaknesses. And so wrapping that all up into who we are, it's hard to just say, this is who I am. Well, that's one of the things that the Colors book actually brings out, is who am I, right? And it helps you really define that in ways that is maybe a little bit arbitrary until you can start to put some construct around it. But you always want to know what drives you. What are you passionate about? Are you passionate about helping people? Are you passionate about bringing that new idea to fruition? Are you passionate about like, I just want to have a kind of a laid back life and I want something that can give that to me. Find those things inside of you that really draw up that joy that you say, I would like something that involves this, right? And then really what's important to you when you think about a new career. Is organizational culture important to you? Work-life balance? Sometimes at certain stages of your life, you may have one thing that's important to you. In another stage of your life, you may have something else that's important to you. At some points in my life, I said, I am just going to pour everything in. I'm just going to become the expert. I don't think I cared about work-life balance as much at that point. But now I'm at a point where I have 2 kids and I do care a lot more about work-life balance, right? And so different stages of your life and what you have going on in your life can change what you value and what you want and what's important to you. Is the meaningfulness of work important? Do you just want, hey, I just want a good career that pays well. I don't care if it's meaningful, just give me a good paycheck, right? And that's okay, right? But it's going to be up to you. You can't make his decision. He can't make your decision, right? We have to say, what's important to me? What's going to matter to me? Because when you get into that career, you want to be happy with it, right? You want it. No career is perfect, right? No job is perfect. No company is perfect. No person is perfect, right? We're all imperfect people in an imperfect world. But the more we understand about ourselves and what we want, and we seek those out as requirements within what we're looking for, the closer we're going to be able to enjoy what we have, right? And so this is some of the things that I want you to start thinking about as you're really thinking about your next career step, okay? Okay, so we're kind of going to do a little quiz, but it's not like a you're right, you're wrong quiz. It's not like one person gets 3 points, the other person gets 2. It's nothing like that, okay? So you can't get it wrong. I just want you to look at these 4 squares, and I just want you to pick the one that resonates most with you. I'll give you a moment.
You have a little bit in each square.
Yes, you can, but I do want you to lean towards the one that resonated the most, okay? Got it? Everybody got it? Okay, I want you to remember the color, okay? You don't even have to remember what it said, just remember the color associated, all right? All right, ready for the next one? Okay, same thing. Which resonates most with you? I think one of you may have just said, oh, that's me. Okay, you got it? All right. And remember the color. Okay. All right. We're going on to the next one. All right. What do you think? Okay, you got it? All right. Okay. So now I'm going to put all these together. Okay. Who tended to associate more with the orange ones? Anyone? No? Okay. Who tended to associate more with the blue ones? Okay, we had a few blues. Okay. What about the green ones? Okay, got a few greens. All right, and what about the gold ones? Okay, a couple of golds. Great. And then is there anybody who really, like, you have one of these, one of these, and one of these, and nothing? Okay, that's okay too. That is okay. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? This is just a sample, okay? So this is not the full assessment, all right? There are full assessments that you can take and help to know yourself better. But what this is doing is it's starting to help you kind of move a little bit towards what lane do I kind of fit best in that will help me explain who I am and why I do what I do, right? Why I want what I want. And so for those that are in that, well, there's not really anybody orange, and there might be some orange ones online. So I'm going to explain the orange one too. For the orange ones, you're not going to want something that's routine every day because that will stress you out. You will be miserable. So, and you probably won't want anything that's too concrete. Accounting. I know orange people who got into accounting. They were there for 4 years and they were so desperate to do anything else. And there's nothing wrong with accounting, but orange and accounting don't usually mix together unless they've got a really strong gold. So then you've got your blue, right? And so your blue, you're going to be the helpers. You want an environment where you can be around people. You don't want to be tucked behind a wall somewhere by yourself, because people are part of your lives. You need people in your lives. And so, and if you can feel like you're making a difference in people's lives, that matters. And that might be something you can think about when you're looking for your career choice. You've got the green. They're the logical thinkers. That logic makes sense. Like, give me logic, right? I can work with that. And they're the big picture thinkers, the visionaries. They want to figure something new out. And puzzles, they love puzzles. And then you've got your gold, right? And your gold is very organized, structured, the administration. They want all those ticks and ties. They want the numbers to make sense at all the detailed level. And so if you can kind of start to see, there's a trend here, right? Each one of these colors, maybe there's some careers that really fit well in these kind of categories, right? And it's another way to think about where would I be happy? What would I be happy doing if you're still exploring that? So when we think of the colors, if you want to really drive into your success, if you're in an area that's catering towards your brightest colors, you're going to be in esteem. It means that you're going to be able to be your best self and bring your best self to life, to work every day, right? If you're in an environment that caters towards a color that's on the end of your spectrum, now we're all of the colors, okay? Nobody has any of them missing. But for me, my brightest is my green and my orange. And my blue gold are at the end of my spectrum. If I need to get gold, man, I gotta really reach. It's there, but if I have to work in a fully gold environment, I would be miserable. I need change. I need to be able to kind of fly with new ideas. And so I just know that I shouldn't pursue career paths that would put me in a very highly gold environment. I'd drive people crazy, right? Not even just about me. Like, they'd be like, get this girl out of here. She's too much for me. So really just trying to understand yourselves in a way that drives you towards that place where you can be your best self every day is really powerful. So when we think about that, it just kind of understands what drives you, understand what motivates you. It's another thing too, that when you understand what your colors are, it'll help you like get temptation of drawing you off track out of the way, because it's actually associated with what is going to draw you to the side with your color. Isn't that amazing? So some things that might tempt some might not tempt others. And you really want those hindrances out of the way so it doesn't make you want to quit, right? And I don't even mean just, quit the work, but I just mean sometimes it's just, you just don't want to show up, to life if life just isn't where the environment you want to be in, But you guys are all overcomers. You just need to understand your superpowers. We all have superpowers. I have to say though, you have a superpower. I know it. What's your superpower? No? You working on it? We'll find out what your superpower is later. I want the superpower. If I could have any superpower, I want to be able to teleport, but not just teleport. I want to be able to teleport with whatever I'm touching so that I can take people and my luggage with me, because there's nothing worse than showing up on a great vacation with one outfit. So since I can't have that, I got to work with what I can. And so your superpowers are your natural strengths, okay? These are going to be the things that you just kind of naturally are good at, and everybody has things. And so maybe it's something that came up to mind as soon as I said natural strengths. You're like, oh, I'm good at this. Or maybe it's something you got to like dig for a little bit. Maybe you haven't used it a lot and you don't know how good you are at it. That's possible. But those natural strength areas are probably things you've also always been good at. There's something that kind of resonated with you in that area. Then there's also experience, right? Experience brings superpowers. That's going to be those things that you've done before. I've done this job, I've done that job, I've had this experience, I've gone to this country, I've worked with this group of people or clients. Those are your experiences. Those are bringing in some opportunities as well. Your skills. So what skills have you built along the way? Those are superpowers. You're going to put those into your mix of what you bring to the table. And then your resources. And I think sometimes we limit our understanding of how vital this is. We want to do it ourselves. We want to be the lone hero, right? But it's not meant to be that way. We're designed to work in relationship with other people. And when you can identify those resources and then lean on those resources, and ask for help when you need it, that's a really awesome thing. And I know you guys are already stepping in that direction, if not already on that path, because you're here. And that's really awesome. And that's part of being able to leverage those resources. And so I just thank you guys for continuing to provide this group, because it's an amazing resource for so many. All right, so I have to bring my business analyst skills to the table because that's what I did for 16 years, okay? So there's this thing called the current state analysis and the future state analysis, or desired state analysis, whichever you prefer to call it. And then there's a gap that exists in between. So you need to know where you're starting and where you're going, kind of like a GPS. Ever try to tell a GPS, hey, I wanna go here, but don't tell them where you are? It doesn't. So same thing if you tell them I'm here and I want to go somewhere and they're like, where do you want to go, right? You have to have those two data points to be able to find the gap in between, right? And so that gap in between becomes your action plan or your roadmap. And so using what we've talked about so far, and I'm actually going to pass you guys out some action plans that you can use and really start to kind of doodle these ideas out, okay? But you want to be able to really draw out, okay, all those pieces of who you are, what you want, what skills you bring to the table, all those different things as your current state. This is who I am. This is what I have right now, right? And then you say, this is where I want to go. I want a job that has these kind of attributes. I want a career that makes me feel like this, or that does this or does that. And that's going to be your desired state or your future state, okay? Then you kind of have to do this analysis and say, what do I not have now that I need to get here? It could be multiple things. It could be one big, clear thing. It could be a step stair of multiple like steps in the same vein, right? I have a lot of people reaching out to me lately saying, hey, I just want to talk to you about my career path. And I'm like, sure, I have no idea who you are. Put some time on my calendar, right? And so this one girl came to me, she said, I want to be a business analyst. That's great. Let's talk about why you want to be a business analyst, what you know about it so far, and what are you doing currently. And so what she was doing currently was in more of a, we'll call it kind of a ticket management piece, where you receive an intake ticket, they ask you to do something, and then you either send it off to somebody that can do it, or if it's a small thing, then she would do it, okay? And so I said, I love that you want to be a business analyst, but there's probably a few steps you're going to want to go through to get there, because I can't currently hire you as a business analyst. You just don't have enough understanding of the different techniques and processes and mindsets. I said, but have you thought about maybe the product analyst route? Because for her, she could leverage some skills that she used and experiences that would have a slight overlay with a product analyst. And then once she became a product analyst, she could utilize some of those skills that have a slight overlay with a business analyst. Now, she may find when she becomes a product analyst, that's what she wants to do, and she continues that path and never, ever becomes a business analyst. Or if she does want to continue to pursue that path, she at least has a pathway, right? And sometimes where you want to get to isn't one step away. Sometimes it's a couple steps away, and that's okay. You may find along the way that, you know what, forget that. I don't want to be a lawyer anyway. Look at how cool this is, right? And you continue in that whole different path that you never even considered. You thought it was just a step, but it opened up this whole world to you, right? So don't discount those steps. There could be something in there that's your pathway and you just didn't even know it, right? All right, so feedback. Feedback is a gift, and I want you to think of it that way, okay? Feedback does not always feel good. Maybe it's a gift that you're like, I don't know what that thing is. What is that thing? You know, you ever open a box and somebody gives you a gift and you're like, what do I do with that? What is that? Right? But feedback, whether it's positive or kind of a little bit more challenging, right? That more positive critical feedback, right? There's an element of that. You want to pay attention. They may not always be right, but if it's somebody that is offering that feedback, at least acknowledge it and explore it. You know, we all have areas that we can work on, and it doesn't matter how much we work on ourselves, there's always another area that we can work on, right? And so what I want to ask you is, how well do you receive feedback? And I want you to think about that for a minute. If somebody comes and they say, hey, you know, You did a really good job on that project last week. Do you blow that off? Positive feedback so hard, I can't do it. I'll just pretend it. Oh, it was nothing. It wasn't me. You just brush it off, or do you actually receive that feedback? Positive feedback even. Some people have a really hard time with that, but that's really important. Now, what about feedback that's constructive? Feedback that hurts a little bit. How well do you receive that? Do you get angry and kind of just turn it off right away and you're like, that's not me. I don't do that. Or you actually kind of explore, okay, well, when do you see that happen? When do you see me do that? What makes you, what's the trigger that makes you think that I do that or say that or think that? Can you give me an example? Instead of turning it off, start to explore it. Ask questions to try to understand it. We had a great feedback session we were doing on Friday, actually. It was an all-day session for all of our directors and managers. And we're doing this executive coaching program, and we were learning to give each other feedback. And this one guy is in there, and it's his turn to be in that what they call the hot chair. So he's the one getting the feedback. The other guy's giving it, and he says, I've noticed that every time you get stressed, your glasses come off and you run your hands through your hair. He's like, the guy getting the feedback, he's like, he literally dropped his mouth and just, he looked speechless for a second. And then he said, that's why I'm losing my hair. He was so upset that they didn't tell him this 4 years ago because he had no idea he did it. And as soon as he started to do that, he went for his glasses. He's like, oh, I'm going for my glasses. He had no awareness that he was even doing that. But if you imagine, what if he was in the middle of an interview? He gets stressed. He goes for his glasses. His hands come up through his hair. As a hiring manager, what's that going to say to you? It's probably not a positive body language sign, right? And he had no idea he even did it. Now, thankfully, he was already in the position he wanted to be and wasn't in front of a hiring manager. But sometimes we aren't aware of our body language. We aren't aware of our facial cues, right? We aren't aware of that word that we keep using over and over and over and have no idea it's coming out of our mouth, right? And we live in a culture where just be nice. Everybody be nice. Oh, you just need to be nice, right? If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. So people aren't actively taught how to give feedback that helps people get better because they're like, oh, just ignore it. It'll go away. Don't say anything. It's not nice. Well, if they're taught to say it in a nice way, then it is nice. If I care about you, I want to be able to bring something to your attention that might be damaging your path or your reputation, right? And I want you to start to feel comfortable about also giving other people feedback because it goes both ways, right? So feedback's something that I help to teach others now because it's been taught to me and it works. And so it's something that works for all ages. But I want you to think about these things, and I believe you'll be able to have access to the slide deck afterwards. So, start going through those things that people have told you and start to resonate and pay attention and say, okay, well, when this person said this, I kind of, I didn't do anything about it. Maybe I should think about why they said that. Is that something I do need to look at? And also solicit feedback from people. And not everybody knows how to give feedback, so just be ready to have a little bit of a hard shell because they may not give it in the best mode, right? The feedback may be real, but some people don't know how, they've not been taught how to give feedback, and that's okay. But then what are you going to do with the feedback once you get it, right? Are you going to just say, oh, well, that didn't feel good. Let me shove that one under the rug. Or you can actually maybe say, oh, maybe I say the word so too much. Maybe I need to stop saying that. I didn't know I said the word so too much until I started watching recordings of myself. And I was like, holy moly, that word so has got to go. And I probably still say it more than I should, but I'm working on it. So, no, I'm joking. So you also want to take action, and this is on all of it, right? You want to be able to take an action plan, put it together, and then execute on it. I'm going to go ahead and hand them to you, and if you can pass them down, that'd be great. Oh, okay. Yes, I definitely can do that. Absolutely. So, when you think about all these things, you want to put them into a package, and that's what this here, and I'll wait till it gets all the way around, but is going to help you do. So It's just a 2-page action form. The front of it helps you remember what we talked about today. And it helps you be able to kind of put some framework around putting your action plan together. So that when you are thinking about, okay, what is it that I want to do next, that you can make some decisions that aren't ambiguous, that aren't based on just a guess, but that you can start to say, okay, I want to go this way because what are my requirements? Why do I want to go that path? What kinds of different careers would fall into the category of things I'd like to explore? And it sounds like some of you already have some ideas about that, but now that you have this, start laying these principles and elements into that concept of those different career paths and say, does that one line up with what I want? Does that one line up with what I want? And it'll help you kind of explore that a little bit more. I do want to also, I'm going to grab one of these for a second. Kind of sharing the blue, what I've done is I've laid out what each piece is. So your objective, for example, is going to come from this top one. So identify what you want. That's going to be your objectives. So I want a career that. And it's okay to put, like, don't have to limit it to 3, but like, I want a career that makes me feel valued, right? I want a career that pays really well, right? I want a career that, whatever it is that drives you. And as many as you need to put on there, put those on there. And this is a working, living document, which means that as you grow, I want a career that might change. And that's okay. And you can do a new one as you go to that next step. And so the next part down is the opportunity. So this means, there are areas between the current state you, right, and the where you want to be you in your career. And this is an opportunity to put those down to say, okay, now as that future state, I want it to look like this. I want, in the example here, your opportunity represents those areas that can develop to overcome your gap. So if you're an expert in sales, you're an expert in sales, and you're seeking a sales job, then you don't have a knowledge gap. So you wouldn't get sales training as one of your opportunity lists because it's not a gap for you, right? But if somebody said, hey, you're too direct, well, maybe get soft skills training might be a gap for you, right? Based on feedback. And so there's all kinds of different ways that you can kind of compare who you are now to where you want to be. But using those different areas of the skills, the experience, the feedback, it's really going to be helpful in helping you navigate that. And then on the back, you're going to use the SMART method. I'm sure you've all heard of that. That's the specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And this is what are you going to do? Okay, well, I need soft skill training. So in the next month, I'm going to find a coach that teaches soft skills, right? Or I need to understand what careers are out there. So in the next 2 weeks, I'm going to find 6 different careers that use the skills that I have. Right? So whatever those things are that you're going to use in your action plan, make a list here. And again, I've left plenty of room. You do not have to keep it to 3, but be realistic, right? So that's one of that's important. You're going to say that I'm going to complete all these certifications in the next 3 weeks. Probably not as realistic, but maybe you can start preparing for one of them, right? So think about those kind of things when you're thinking about your action plan. And then at the bottom, I did just put things that I do personally or that the organization for the nonprofit does. So if you wanted to reach out to us, you have that as well. But there are so many resources out there. I mean, LinkedIn's a great resource. There's a lot of learning applications. There's networking groups all over the place with all kinds of different ways of networking. I mean, there's a lot out there. And people, right? Don't neglect your resources that are the people you know. Hey, do you know about any networking events? Hey, have you heard of any good organizations that do this kind of work? Right? Talk to people. And just be curious. Being curious helps you get over the I don't know what to say. So that's something that we teach when we teach networking. So hopefully this provided a little bit of a guidance, a direction, a pathway that you guys can feel like you can tangibly take and use. I do want to open it up for any questions that you may have at this time.
Questions?
I have a question.
Great, go for it.
So, one of the key parts that you highlighted in the beginning, as you work your way around the circle of changing careers, was taking action.
Yes.
And that can be a really hard um, step to take. Do you have any advice that you offer to clients that can help people when they find themselves internally stuck?
Absolutely. I want you to know that first, taking action doesn't always have to be the big step. Okay. Taking action can be a step in between, a small step. Even getting yourself out of bed to go and get on the computer and look something up, if you haven't been able to push yourself to do that, that's action. So it doesn't have to start with, I've applied for the job. It doesn't even have to start with, I've taken a class. I mean, those can be easy for some people and really hard for others. So it kind of starts with understanding yourself and why you're feeling limited or why you're feeling hesitant to take a step. Because that may be the step you need to take first, is overcome what's holding you back and then be able to take the step of action towards those little steps in the career journey. Sometimes the first step isn't about the career at all. Sometimes it's about dealing with something on the inside that's stopping you from being able to get out of your head or being able to get out of your comfort zone. It's one of the hard things, but really valuable things to do is get out of your comfort zone. But boy, if you've been there a long time, that's a really hard thing to do. Hopefully that helped a little bit, but I'd definitely be more than happy to talk with you more about that.
Yeah, that was very helpful because I do think there's always like the emotional driver as to why you do or don't do something. And sometimes asking yourself that question when you're like just looking at the action or inaction, but not probing a little deeper. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah.
Right. My question is about perhaps the book and how we had the colors, themes, selection, Then I was choosing the first answer and I chose a second answer. I'm like, okay, it's the same color. What is about this color, right? So what is about this color? Like, is that resonate with the personality or your belief or who you are, or how that can be applicable to your work and networking and what you're trying to do in your life?
Great question. Yeah, so the colors themselves are an analogy, okay? So if you go all the way back to Hippocrates and him kind of starting to explain how the brain works a little bit and how people think. And then it's been refined over and over and over for hundreds of years. You're maybe familiar with Myers-Briggs.
Yep.
And so this color science is actually based on the same science as Myers-Briggs.
Okay.
But I'm sorry, as many times as I've taken that thing, I can't remember what all those letters stand for in the combination. It is hard.
Exactly.
And if it's hard for yourself, imagine how hard it is to figure out other people, right?
Yeah.
So this breaks it down to 4 colors. Everybody is the same 4 colors, and you know what each 4 mean, and you know which ones are your brightest. But then you know, ooh, that one's not me, but boy, that person's acting very that color, right? And you can say, that's why we've been butting heads, right? And so it's a great team builder. It's a great relationship helper. I mean, truthfully, it transformed the relationship I had with two of my grandparents because I learned their colors. And I was like, oh my gosh, we can be friends now, right? It was amazing. But, I do this as a workshop is how it started in corporate environments. And it was helping people build teams. But people were coming to forgiveness of others that they'd held grudges for 30 years in the middle of my corporate workshops. I'm like, this is bigger than building teams, right? So that's why I wrote the book. But it really goes into our framework. And I want you to kind of think of it, computers, okay? So I'm gonna lay it out in that format. You've got different operating systems, right? You've got your Linux, you've got your Mac, you've got your, your PC, you've got your Android, your iOS, right? And each of those can run a program if the program's designed for each one. But it can't run the program if it's only built for this one, right? And it doesn't always operate as well if it's built for this one because it was really designed for this one, but it can run on that one if, you know, so there's all that pieces, there's complexity. So each one of these colors is like a different operating system. And so while we all use all of them, our brightest color is going to drive what we do, how we think, what we value, what motivates us. And the farther down in the spectrum the color is, the less that's going to impact who we are and what we do.
So do you recommend then, if you're in a situation of networking or preparing for an interview or actually in an interview, don't speak your color, but kind of put that self out there that this is who I am and that's how I see things? And
maybe not. And I'll tell you
I was going to say, like, is it a good or a bad idea?
Because the other person on the other side may not understand that, right? But you can use it to your benefit, because as you're understanding who you are going into that, you can start to gauge who you're talking to. And if you start to figure out, oh, this person seems to respond a lot like me, then you can connect on, ooh, if I'm green, they're acting very green, we can connect in the logical space. Yeah. Or if they're responding very gold, and you know that gold is not your color, but you know what gold does, you can get into your gold vein and be like, okay, they want to be talked to like this. And it'll help you kind of resonate with who you're talking to. Yeah, I'm going to ask a couple of more questions unless if anybody else have. So this in the book then is the talk about, okay, if you are color gold, how to work best with color orange or green. It gives lots of examples. Okay. So it gives good examples. It gives challenging examples, but it shows that it kind of, it takes the wrapping off the box, basically, okay, and shows you what's inside. Awesome. All right.
Naomi.
Yep.
Go ahead, Naomi, on you.
Oh, thank you so much, Jessie. This is a tremendous presentation. So thank you for all this. My question is, for this current slide, what is the difference between the first link of joyempoweredlife.com and the second link of JessieLeePerez.com?
Sure. So Jessie Lee Perez is just learning a little bit more about me. It's where I keep my books. So if you want to get a book, that's probably a good place to go. If you want to know more about me, I just figured I'd put that out there. Joy Empowered Life is really the coaching program. And so that's where it can help with soft skills. It can help you identify areas in your life that maybe have been hindering you, or areas where you can really excel and continue to like drive that forward. And so that's what that one's about.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Is there a way to identify actual job titles based on the color?
AI is a beautiful thing. No, almost. I wish, right? I wish. So what you can do is you can identify what those strengths are from the color, right?
Right.
And then you actually, believe it or not, can use AI and say, what jobs, have, use these strengths? And you actually can get a pretty good list. I mean, ChatGPT is actually an area where you could put that in and then get things you probably never even thought of, I do believe in using all of your resources, and we have a lot more available to us. Now, there may be some hallucinations in there, and it'll tell you, you should be a lifeguard. And you're like, I can't swim. So that probably is not what you want. So use it with judgment, right?
About 40 years ago.
So hopefully that helps.
Yeah.
But yeah, pairing things together, like getting your information from one source and then being able to put it into another as an input, those kind of things can help.
Go down to the villages.
More questions? Ellen, did you have a question?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Can I ask one last question? Probably the last.
Yeah.
The circle that plus the second slide you had up there.
Esteem?
Yes.
Okay.
The knowing yourself, what you want, what you have done,
okay,
your skills,
yes,
feedback, take action. So is that insinuating to use it as an elevator pitch when you go on an interview, or is more so a self-reflection and just knowing where you stand? Yeah, this is really a self-reflection to get you prepared to follow the right path, right? So once you use that and you plug it into your action plan, that can hopefully give you a few different areas to explore, to say, I think I meant like this or this or this. And then you go out on the World Wide Web, right, as we used to call it,
And you plug in, hey, jobs for this or jobs for things like this. And that's where you can say, okay, I'm pointing the right direction. One of the things that is so important that we sometimes don't think about, and I mean we, like the big we, right, is don't solve the wrong problems. You can have a great solution, but if you're solving the wrong problem, it doesn't work, right? So for looking for a new career, the right problem is knowing what careers you want to go after. And then you start to solve that problem, right? And then you start to find what openings are available. Do I like that company? Is that too far away? Those kind of questions, right? And then you can start to interview. Now, when you interview, they do amazing mock interview sessions in this group and other places. So if that's an area where you're struggling, that there's a lot of resources for that. But once you get into the interview, that's the first step, right? Get past the bots. Those things, man, you put your resume out there and you're hoping for, and nobody ever sees it if you don't have your resume worded the right way. So it's another piece, right? You got to make sure you have somebody look over your resume and make sure that those buzzwords are in there in a way that you can get past the bots. Don't lie, but use buzzwords if they are applicable, right? And be able to get through so that some human can actually look at your resume. And that's how, you get to the interview stage.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bill, Bill online, Bill here.
All right.
Great.
Thank you.
This is
Great.
Really great.
My pleasure.
All right, we appreciate it. Can you send me this?
Absolutely.
Jessie? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so I will put the career action plan that she handed out on the box account for the folks that were online. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week. Are you okay if I put the presentation?
Yes, that'd be fine. My pleasure. Good. Well, thanks for having me back.
So where the color framework,
Yeah.
where did that come from?
So a guy named Don Lowry back in the 70s created it. It was called True Colors.
Okay.
So he never copy wrote it. And so he had a team working with him and there was a fallout one day. And so some of the team took it and created things like Disc and all kinds of other ones that you have names of, right?
Okay.
And then one lady kept working with him named Christine Gardner, and she was living in Canada. So she said, hey, I like this, but I want to make it more for the corporate and professional community. Is that okay? And they worked together and she developed that. Well, she started providing these workshops to big corporations. I ended up in one of them. And then they sent me to go get certified by her. And then I became a certified facilitator of True Colors. And that's how that happened.
I just have to get
Yeah.
home, still in the attic.
And it's been absolutely transformational in my life and so many other people's that I have given me their testimonies.
So your book,
Oh, thanks.
does it explain the color framework?
It does.
Okay.
Yep.
So start with your book.
Yeah, that's a great place to start. That is a great place to start.
I need
Yep.
to read a book on color and then.
No, this covers that. The whole first chapter is all about color.
Okay.
Yes.